is a quiet allegiance that forms without words, not to beliefs, but to configurations, ways of standing, ways of responding that once ensured continuity. When those patterns begin to loosen, the body registers loss before possibility, not because change is dangerous, but because something loyal is being asked to step aside without knowing if it will still be needed. Even in quiet moments, it stays alert, as if leaving its post might undo something that once had to be held. Morning light enters the room at a slightly different angle than it used to. The curtains are thinner now, the street outside quieter, no urgency in the air. The body still wakes a fraction before the alarm, not because it must, because it always has. There is a moment of stillness before movement, a held pause, as if listening for something that no longer arrives. Shoulders lift just enough to be ready. Breath stays shallow for the first few seconds, efficient, alert. Nothing is wrong. No signal sounds. The room remains calm. Still, the posture assembles itself piece by piece. Feet touch the floor with care, weight already slightly forward. The mind is not racing. There is no fear, just readiness, a stance that once mattered. In the kitchen, the kettle fills before thirst is felt. Hands move in a familiar order. Outside, a car passes. Not close, not fast. The body registers it anyway, a subtle tightening, a reflex that no longer announces itself. Later, sitting at a table, there is space. Time stretches, no demand pressing from ahead. Yet the spine stays upright. Jaw unclenches, then tightens again without instruction. This orientation does not ask permission. It does not check context. It arrives intact, as it always has. Nothing happens. No event arrives to justify it. The day continues, gentler than expected, and the system remains slightly ahead of it. Loyalty begins before language, not as affection, not as attachment, as structure. Certain configurations prove themselves by keeping life continuous. They do not explain. They do not reassure. They function. They organize posture. They regulate timing. They decide how much space is allowed before response. When a configuration works, it earns trust, not conceptually, operationally. It keeps the body oriented through uncertainty. It reduces disruption. It maintains coherence when conditions are unstable. That reliability is not forgotten. It becomes internal law. The system learns, without reflection, that this way of standing, this way of responding, keeps things intact. Loyalty here is not emotional devotion. It is structural confidence. A pattern that has proven it can hold the line is given authority. It is allowed to remain in charge. Over time, this authority settles into muscle tone, into breath patterns, into how quickly the system mobilizes before it knows why. The loyalty is quiet, almost invisible. It does not announce itself as allegiance. It simply continues to take responsibility for continuity. Change enters not as threat, but as implication. It suggests that a role may no longer be required. For a configuration that once protected life, this is not neutral information. That role did not emerge for expression. It emerged for function. It carried responsibility when responsibility was necessary. It stayed awake when staying awake mattered. It maintained readiness when readiness prevented collapse. To step away from that role is not just to change behavior. It is to release an obligation that was once absolute. The system does not experience this as relief. It experiences it as dereliction, not consciously, bodily, as if standing down might leave something unguarded, as if continuity itself could fray. This is why change can feel like betrayal, not betrayal of an identity, but betrayal of a duty. Something loyal is being asked to stop doing what it once did so well, and there is no ceremony for that release, no confirmation that its service is complete. The request arrives quietly. Life softens, demands lessen, and the configuration, still oriented toward protection, registers this softening as a kind of abandonment, not of the future, of the past it carried forward. These allegiances persist through duration. They are stored not in memory, but in readiness, in how quickly the body leans forward, in how long breath is held before release, in how silence is scanned for incoming demand. External conditions may change, rooms become safer, relationships stabilize, time expands. The configuration does not update at the same pace, not because it is rigid, because it is loyal. It continues to honor the conditions under which it was formed. This persistence is not error. It is memory expressed through posture, a record of what once mattered, held without commentary. The system remembers what it took to keep things moving, to prevent rupture, to ensure continuation. That memory does not disappear when conditions shift. It stays on watch, not because it believes danger is imminent, but because it has learned that readiness itself is what preserved life. There is no evaluation here, no conclusion that the loyalty is unnecessary. It simply remains faithful to its original task. Duration deepens it, repetition stabilizes it, and so the allegiance continues, even in gentler terrain. This experience is often misunderstood. It is not fear of growth. It is not resistance to change. It is not clinging to an identity. It is not avoidance of what comes next. Those interpretations arrive too late. What is happening occurs earlier, beneath narrative. It is the sensation of asking something reliable to release its grip without clear succession. It is the weight of continuity shifting hands. The body does not argue. It does not protest. It tightens slightly. It stays alert. It waits. Not because it doubts the future, but because it has not been told that its watch is complete. This is loyalty without language. Care expressed as vigilance, intelligence expressed as readiness. And when change appears, it does not meet curiosity first. It meets allegiance. A quiet question, held in posture, asking whether what once mattered is still being honored. In conversation, a pause opens where reassurance might have been offered. The other person is steady, their tone even, no sign of withdrawal. Still, the system moves first. An explanation arrives before it is needed, carefully phrased, efficient, designed to prevent misalignment that is no longer forming. The moment passes. The connection remains intact, and the body notes quietly that it stayed ahead just in case. At work, a task completes earlier than expected. There's time, no eyes waiting, no urgency in the room. The shoulders remain lifted. Attention scans for the next demand, not because one exists, because readiness once ensured that nothing was missed. The screen stays open. Hands hover. A familiar tension holds the spine upright. The day allows ease. The configuration does not yet accept it. Alone at night, the house is settled. Lights dim, sounds minimal. No one needs anything. The body stays lightly engaged, breath measured, muscles prepared for interruption that does not come. Rest arrives in fragments, not withheld, simply delayed. The posture that once listened for footsteps continues to listen to silence. Loyalty does not disappear when necessity fades. It remains, not as mistake, but as record, a living archive of what once worked. There is gratitude here, even if unnamed, a recognition that something reliable carried the system through conditions that required precision, endurance, and restraint. At the same time, there is constraint, not imposed, inherited. The allegiance continues to shape timing, to narrow spaciousness, to privilege readiness over rest. This coexistence does not demand resolution. Gratitude and limitation occupy the same posture. The loyalty is not wrong for persisting, nor is the gentler present wrong for arriving. Both remain true without canceling each other. The system holds them together without commentary, as it always has. Sometimes the loyalty becomes perceptible as a slight forward lean when nothing is approaching. Sometimes as breath that pauses before fully releasing. Sometimes as a readiness that assembles itself in calm rooms during stable moments without being summoned. There are instances where the body notices it has already prepared for what did not occur, not with judgment, just recognition, a faint awareness of effort continuing past requirement. The configuration does not announce itself. It reveals itself through these small signals. The allegiance remains where it has always been, quiet, attentive, faithful to continuity. It does not need to be questioned to be acknowledged. It stands watch even as the environment softens, even as the signals change, not because it doubts the present, because it remembers what it once held together, and so it stays alert, intact, with only the faintest awareness that the ground beneath it has shifted